to shift back to your expertise. I want to shift to case management and getting the work done. And like, there's so much here. Let's talk about systems and efficiencies and carrying a high caseload. I know this is super broad, but what are some, when you think of like creating an efficiencies when carrying a high caseload versus inefficiencies, what immediately comes to mind?
I thought about today. I was like, I think I'm going to give you the gold. I'm like, I'm just going to do it for free because I thought about it, and so many people get on and they try to give you as little as possible because they want to charge. But at the end of the day, it's like I really want people to get the information. If they want to come to me, then they can. But when I say one of the first things as a law firm that you have to do is really understand how to do your front end of your work really well, because your cash flow is going to be affected when you're not sending out the proper opening letters, you're not sending out your ERISAs, your lien letters, you're not making sure they went received the hospital bills and records within the first 30 days. I recommend getting hospital verbals within the first 7 days, because hey, if you have limits that are $25,000 and then you have a hospital bill for $40,000 and then you send that person to treatment, but you don't know until you get a hospital bill 3 months later, that's not good. So the goal is to try to sniff out any possible issues early on. The way that I've learned to do this over time is, put these practices in. There's certain states like Florida where it's actually the only state in the U.S. that doesn't have mandatory bodily injury. So in that particular state, one of my systems would be, confirm that there's limits first, and then reach out, send the HIPAA to the hospital, get these verbal amounts, request the bills, because those takes the longest to get. I go through insurance coverages, going in through the police report, showing people how to get BI, excess BI, stacking of family members and different people are in a household, host vehicle. There's the most common thing I think I've seen that hinders process is a lot of times going to be not finding all insurance policies that are available, and then also not keeping track with clients for treatment, or even not getting them to the right doctors for treatment. So in my trainings early on, I talk about, here's all the different types of doctors that you can use: podiatrists, neurologists, neurosurgeons, talking about the difference between those two, TBIs, understanding that there's more than just chiro and ortho. You also want to use those, of course, but there's just other ways that you can add more meat and potatoes to your case. So I try to go in and talk to law firms about not having vegan cases, which is, there's no meat there. Like, you're just sending demand letters, and you're just getting offers. For every 5 to 7 cases, it should be easy for you to get 100 in fees. And it's one time me walking into a firm and seeing 40 cases equal almost 88,000 in fees, and I was like, how is this even possible? Almost all their clients went to just chiro. There was no MRI. Also teaching how to review MRIs and how to get people right to the specialist within a good time frame. And then talking to clients. A big part of this is communication with your client. And then when it's time to get a procedure, the client's scared. Dan Newland's one of the first ones that I'll say, why don't you go to the surgery center and hold that person's hand? You know what I mean? Like, why don't you show some care and just not sit behind a computer all day, And so, putting that part into the training as well, in addition to understanding processes. But a lot of it is, care and knowledge and education, and educating your clients, because once a client understands why they're getting a medial branch block or radio frequency ablation, or a discectomy or laminectomy, they're like, okay, I understand why we're doing this. I'm comfortable moving forward. Once you're explaining, and then because the doctor's already explained it, and now as the law firm, you're kind of reiterating it, and the client's like, oh man, the doctor just told me that. Yes, I know, because what do? I get a lot of trainings from the doctors. I reach out to doctors. I sit in their seminars. I also on the phone with them, ask them questions about procedures, how they do it, and then I can reiterate these things in my training into clients. And once the client hear you mention it, they then feel way more comfortable. John Morgan once said, "There's not one person I've ever spoken to and spoke about and talked to them about their case and they didn't move forward with the recommended procedure that the doctor thought they needed for their for their injuries. And you could argue, oh, it's because you're John Morgan, but no, it's because you care, and you
Right.
have the education behind it, and the person can really hear it in your voice, the genuineness of like. And I tell a lot of, David Ball talks about this in his book of Damages and Reptili, but I I um I teach people to connect your cases by looking at the age of the person and say, hey, who in your family, what's a person that you love the most? Can you connect this person to someone that appears in your family? And someone who's a grandma age, or your mom or your dad's age, and say, okay, so now that you've seen that this person could remind you of someone, relate that person to this case, and then all of a sudden you'll see and you'll start noticing a major shift in how that person starts to view that case and treat that client, because now it's a person to you. It's not just a number.
This is an unbelievable masterclass for those listening that have, paralegals and case managers. I mean, there's so much here to unpack.